third is Suarez. Goodell comes running in. He's under it, makes the catch. Here's the throw to the plate. It's in the air. He is out! Cameron Red hangs on! Oh, man, what a play! Deep to right field. Way up there and way out! Second
So we get our second Phillies offseason signing to talk about. This one, not a re-signing, someone new, someone that has come up as a possible target via trade for not a couple, but at least a year and a half now. Adolis Garcia, 1 year, $10 million, going to be the everyday right fielder for the Phillies. And before we get too much into Garcia, it's really funny. Dave Dombrowski talking about this signing on Tuesday, and I've never experienced, at least with the teams I follow, a player be technically on the roster and not considered on the team as much as Nick Castellanos. It was actually quite funny to hear Dave talk about the outfield outlook, and Nick doesn't come up at all. Super funny, just bizarre situation. But with the signing of Garcia, Castellanos is out of here one way or another, whether it be a trade or they eventually release him. I don't think this is something that happens soon, because I don't think anyone necessarily wants Nick Castellanos, but someone might need him come end of February, early March, if they didn't get a player they wanted, or we get into camp and someone gets hurt. So I think he's still going to technically be on the roster and not part of the team for a little bit, which is an interesting dynamic. But today I'll confirm that with Garcia coming on board. But Garcia, man, 2 years ago, one of the most exciting and best power hitters in the sport. Obviously, the Rangers won the World Series in 2023 in large part due to his performance both in the regular season and the postseason. Hit 39 home runs with 107 RBIs just 2 years ago, but that production just hasn't really been there since. 25 homers in 2024 and just 19 this past season. With the ballpark expectancy, it said he would have hit 22 this past year instead of 19 if he played at Citizens Bank Park, his home games at Citizens Bank Park. So yeah, I guess a little uptick there, but they're primarily bring him here because he's incredible upgrade in the outfield from Castellanos. Garcia was 1 out above average in 2025. Castellanos, I believe, was tied for last amongst right fielders in that regard. Garcia has an above average arm. We know that Castellanos does not. So at the very least, they are making a defensive upgrade over Castellanos, and offense, I'd say similar. I think the upside with Garcia is there way more. He has the potential to still reach back and hit 30 home runs, I think. I don't think Castellanos does at all. But other than that, they're pretty close to the same player offensively. They strike out a lot. They don't walk a lot. Garcia's on-base percentage the last 2 seasons, 284 and 271. The only year he had a somewhat respectable on-base percentage in his entire career was that 2023 season. And that season just is odd to me because every Astros player had a really good year and they won the World Series, and they've been complete crap ever since. So, some alarms get raised there a little bit. I don't know, just weird situation. But yeah, only year 2 that his OPS was in the 800s. His only season that comes anywhere close to that was the year before. It was 756. This is a guy that's a late bloomer, really wasn't an everyday player until he was 28, 29, going to be 33 on opening day. He's not a cure by any means. I think if he plays above average defense and bats sixth for this team, I'm pretty happy. I think for $10 million a year, I know technically right field's going to cost you as much as $30 million this year with Castellanos' 20, but I think he's a good role player. I just don't think you're going to get that 2023 guy where he's a borderline MVP candidate. But this is a guy that's won and brings some winning, experience to this team. We know they have that with Schwarber, to a lesser extent, Trey Turner too, who also won a World Series. But he brings energy, which is something this team needs. They needed some kind of mashup. They needed a new face, a new voice that could go in there and change things in the clubhouse. And I think Garcia does bring that. But as I mentioned, I don't think this is the fix. I think it's a good start. But what really screwed this team in the playoffs? Alec Boehm and Brandon Marsh hit 4 and 5. If that is still the case, nothing changes. You could bring back JT Realmuto. I think then you have a very good, we talked about this a lot in this past year, you have a very good 1 through 3 with whatever combination of Schwarber, Turner, and Harper you go with. Then I think you have an above average 7, 8, 9 with whatever combination it's going to be of Realmuto if he's back, Stott, and Justin Crawford. Sounds like he's going to be the everyday center fielder as of right now, and he's going to be in that 7, 8, 9 mix. I think a lot of teams, maybe outside of the Dodgers and the Braves and the Orioles, so I'm naming a few teams here, but the vast majority of teams would like a 7 through 8 of those guys. Experienced ball player in Realmuto, a smart player in Stott who usually works good at bats, and Crawford who's going to bring a lot of speed and puts the bat on the ball. So that's really good. But 4 through 6, they've been so bad at. And, I think Garcia's an improvement. But Marsh and Boehm, man, if they're still there, nothing changes. And in a perfect world, Justin Crawford's playing left. Harrison Bader's re-signed and playing center. And Boehm and Marsh are traded for something. And you really stop gapping third until Aiden Miller is ready, if he can get to that point, with some combination of Amundo Sosa and Kemp. But right now, it looks like those two guys are still everyday players for you. And that's not an upgrade. And the upgrade, I still feel like had to come in the left field spot. Third base, I think they're more inclined to ride out Boehm because it's last year. And then if he sucks in June, July, and Aiden Miller is doing really good, they'll try to trade him for, maybe a team has a corner infielder hurt and they need someone. And maybe they can actually get a little bit more than they would get right now for Boehm. And Aiden Miller comes up. But Marsh, everyone wants to talk about how well he did after April. He comes up so small in the playoffs, cannot hit a lefty to save his life, and we're in year 5 of him as a major league player. At some point, you just have to move on. I'd like them to get creative and bring in another righty bat. I think it needs to be a righty because Garcia's splits are kind of reversed. He hit 199 against lefties this past season and 220, 230 against righties, which neither is good, but it was better against righties. It's backward split there. So I'm still concerned about the outfield. I don't think it's good enough. And it's especially not good enough if Boehm is still on third and Realmuto, who I want back because of how much he means to the locker room and the pitching staff. I think you want him back, but he's a declining offensive player. And we also don't know what really Bryson Stott is at this point. And Bryce Harper seems to be declining. So I need to find production somewhere else. And bringing back Marsh and Boehm, I'm just not getting that, especially because I don't really know what Justin Crawford's going to definitely be yet. maybe Aiden Miller starts playing left field in spring training. Maybe that's something to experiment with, depending on how the rest of this goes. But Garcia was a good signing. It wasn't a fix, though, necessarily. It was more of a, okay, Castellanos, you're definitely gone. Look at this. We got a guy who's just as good as you offensively and is going to give us more in the field. That's the end of that story. That's all that is. But you've not really upgraded anywhere else yet. It's been status quo at DH. Realmuto's still not back, so you haven't necessarily gotten even back to status quo at catcher yet. And I would say center field, as of right now, you've downgraded, because I cannot say that Justin Crawford is definitely better than Harrison Bader. So where are the upgrades going to come from? Especially with, we don't know what Aaron Nola is going to be. We don't know when Zach Wheeler is coming back. We don't know who the fifth starter is going to be. There's a lot with this team that still needs to be figured out, but upgrading those two spots would help a lot. And I know they're up against some financial constraints at this point, but I'm not really satisfied with the return of both Bohm and Marsh, if that does end up being the case. Now, it's still early. It's only the middle of December. Maybe something changes, but I was a little alarmed when Dave Dombrowski said our outfield is set. And I know, like, they're going to put Kemp out there and left and platoon with Marsh. And they think Kemp is a better player than what he showed last year. And he had a couple injuries, including a broken kneecap. So I think he can be better. Maybe give you a little more range defensively than we saw this past year. I can't imagine it's easy to run and field with a broken kneecap. And I'm sure that did affect his ability to hit too, especially for power. So I'm going to give Kemp a little bit of a pass and see what we could get out of him this year. But I almost feel better if I'm going cheap at third base and Kemp's my third baseman with Sosa in there, and then I spent a little more and got Marsh, or got Marsh out of here and got myself an everyday left fielder / an everyday center fielder, and then Crawford played the other spot. And I'm still hoping that is the case, but that is something we're going to have to monitor as the offseason goes on. But did want to touch on their Garcia signing a little bit. Look, these one-year deals have not worked out for the Phillies. Whit Merrifield didn't make it through the year. Max Kepler was okay, but he was not an everyday player. They are banking on Garcia being different than those two. And I really hope he is, because so far Dave Dombrowski and his one-year deals have been really bad. And Garcia's track record is good, but so is Whit Merrifield's. And these guys are on the wrong side of 30 when the Phillies have acquired them. So there's some concern there, which is why I also don't want to bank on him hitting fourth or fifth for me, sixth at best. So there's a lot of upside. The downside is more of, okay, I got a better defensive Castellanos, which it's whatever at this point. But I think upgrading these other spots is where they need to go in order to truly get this team competing with the Dodgers if you want to win a World Series with this core, because time's running out and you might have to overspend, get out of your comfort zone in order to achieve this goal finally, because core's getting older and some of these young guys that were young when this core started are now just middle of the pack ball players that aren't helping you come the playoffs. So we'll keep an eye on all that as the offseason goes along.